Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. So I'm going to start this video off by saying my views are in the pooper right now. So if you can watch this, comment, like, subscribe, all the basics, it would really help me out a lot. I'm not going to beg for donations until I start releasing Madden draft class content coming up very soon, but that'll be on its way as well. It's really hard to keep this channel going when I'm getting these 150 view videos, and it's my fault I'm not putting out anything interesting, and it's a slow time of year. So hopefully things will get interesting again pretty soon. Anyway, I'm really sorry about starting off the video that way. Let's get into things. This video we're going to talk about the rookies, specifically their ratings in Madden 26, the launch ratings. What you're going to see in this video doesn't really coincide with what I'm talking about at the moment. I'm going to just show you guys a bunch of different ratings, position-wise, team-wise, and I'm going to talk about a few points that are on my mind and how it's going to coincide with draft classes. So the very first thing I noticed, Travis Hunter, my boy, from Colorado on Jacksonville, rated an 84 overall. Now, I always had a rule that I never rated a player 80 or higher. 79 was pretty much the highest I went. I think I had Hunter 79 in my final draft class, but 84. I read that's the highest rating since Calvin Johnson 20 years ago was rated at 87 out of the box. That's really high, and Abdul Carter and Ashton Jeanty, they're also rated above an 80. In fact, the ratings look like they're a little higher across the board, so that's going to be the first thing I'm really going to have to adjust. Finally got ratings down to where I felt pretty confident, and now they've changed those a little bit. In fact, I'm looking at the first round. You can't see it on screen because I have things different on screen than what I'm talking about, but everybody's rated at least 75 as far as first round draft picks go, except for quarterbacks. Cam Ward is a 72, Jackson Dart 68. That's pretty common with how they've done things in the past year, but offensive tackles are way up there. Will Campbell's a 79. A few years ago, they had offensive tackles rated, 72 or lower. There was even first round guys that were in the 60s. I don't see anybody in the 60s in the first round at all. The 32nd overall pick, Josh Simmons, left tackle, even he's rated 75. Donovan Jackson, 74. Even going halfway down the first round, Jalen Walker's rated 79. So the overall ratings are definitely up everywhere. I even scroll into, the third round here. Let me just pick a random guy. Who's the 100th overall pick? That would be Upton Stout, Western Kentucky, drafted by the 49ers. He's rated a 73. So in past years, when you got to the third or fourth round, there was almost all these guys were in the 60s, but cornerbacks and receivers specifically, but even offensive linemen and those guys, there are a couple hundred players that are 70 or higher. So I'm going to have to do a little more research, but I will definitely make sure that my draft classes match up with what Madden is doing with their ratings all over the place. And I have noticed that the awareness rating, the higher you go, that really has an impact on the overall player rating. I've seen the awareness is pretty high for these rookies. A lot of them are in the upper 70s, which that wasn't the case in previous years. So I'm going to do a little bit of research, but I will make sure that those match up with what you already see in game. So next I want to talk about the new positions they have, especially linebacker. They went away from left outside linebacker, right outside linebacker, and middle linebacker, which I like. Edge kind of engulfs, some defensive ends, some linebackers. I had to kind of pick and choose where I wanted to put those guys in previous years. And as you know, with the draft, or if a team needed a left end, even if it was a 3-4 team that had a 300-pounder playing left end, they would just draft that 240-pound left end pass rusher because I had him at the left end position. I said left end a lot, but I think you guys know what I mean. So hopefully, I don't know if it's going to work, but hopefully they have an edge position that they can kind of, a 3-4 team can put him at the outside linebacker, or a 4-3 team can put him at end because he's designated as an edge rusher. They still have left edge and right edge, so I don't think they're going to be smart enough to draft the superior player I have at left edge if they have a need at right edge. So they might draft a lesser known or a lesser rated prospect. I don't know. Probably giving Madden too much credit when it comes to that. Also, the linebackers, they did away with outside linebackers and middle linebackers. They now have Sam, Mike, and Will. Now, Mike is middle linebacker. Will is kind of like a weak side linebacker. Now, looking at all of the players drafted, there is no Sam at all. It's all either Mike or Will, which is kind of disappointing. I don't know. I'll have to see when the game comes out how that works. I have Sam's, Mike's, and Will's in my draft class. I just have them with the position that they are in college football 26, so I didn't have to make a big designation. So we're gonna have to see how that plays. Most NFL teams, especially 4-3 teams, they only have, you know, 2 legitimate starting linebackers, and 3-4 teams, they have the 2 inside linebackers. I don't know if they're gonna just strictly draft Mikes and ignore the Wills and Sams because they have edge rusher at outside linebacker now. It's a lot of new stuff, but I think hopefully it'll make things a lot better because, as you guys know, defensive front sevens, the way they would draft would be a gigantic mess, and if you were big into authenticity, you would have to go in there and move a lot of guys around, and that would create depth chart problems and things like that. So I'm cautiously optimistic that that will help when it comes to draft time and these guys actually get the correct players to go with the personnel that they're running. One more thing that may not be a big deal to a casual, but for those of us who are nerds about this stuff, they finally have an actual long snapper position. They didn't just throw the long snapper in the tight end spot and have him rated 25 overall, so he would be cut pretty much instantly. Round 7, pick 251, Julian Ashby, long snapper from Vanderbilt, and his position was actually long snapper. So that's interesting, and he's rated a 65 overall. I'm not sure what ratings they use to get to that designation, but that's another thing I'm going to have to look into. If the draft class has a long snapper spot, I'm going to put a few of those guys in there because it seems like every year 1 or 2 are drafted. So I'm glad they actually have a long snapper position instead of just a really poorly rated tight end that they would never actually put into the depth chart. So that's cool to see. So I'm going to wind this video down with just a couple of random thoughts as I'm scrolling through the list here. I did not include all of the undrafted free agents, but there's probably a good 100 more undrafted free agents in Madden, the launch roster. So that puts them about, 350 to 400 rookies, which is good. That's why I do complete 450 player draft classes, because of all the undrafted free agents, all the guys that are going to end up on practice squads, and all the players you're going to draft. I wish that Madden had the comp picks to actually have 250 or so draft picks, but they're too lazy to do that, so I think it's at like 221, but still, you can sign a lot of guys to your practice squad and your team, so it's important to have all these players actually be rated and be real. So looking at the highest rated players for each round. Round 1, you obviously have Travis Hunter, 84, Ashton Jeanty, 83, Abdul Carter, 81. Those are the heavy hitters, but Jalen Walker, Will Campbell, 79, even Maxwell Hairston, who was drafted 30th overall, rated 78. Michael Williams, you would think he was a project. Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle. Both of those guys are 78. They would be definitely a lot lower in previous years. I would guess, 72 or 73 for both of those guys. Going into round 2, Travion Henderson, Mike Green, both rated 76. Not surprising with the running backs. Round 3's highest rated player is running back Caleb Johnson, 75. But then you got Darian Porter, 74. Lots of third round guys rated 74, especially cornerbacks. Cornerbacks, wide receivers, those guys are usually rated 70 or overall, even going into the 5th or 6th or 7th round. Let's see who else we got. Dylan Sampson from the 4th round, rated 74. Even 6th round, well, a couple of kickers. Andres Borregales, I probably said that wrong. I'm the whitest person in the world and I can never pronounce anything. Tyler Loop, both rated 73. So I try to throw a couple of kickers and punters in there when I do the rankings, the top 250 or so players. I try to throw a couple of kickers and punters in there. Anything else look interesting here? Lots of it. So I scrolled by overall, and there are 137 players that are rated 70 or higher, which has got to be a lot higher than previous years. I don't have that information handy, but just from the past, it definitely looks like that. So you're gonna find some pretty good guys later on in the draft. I'm gonna make sure I have those sleepers and busts and things like that. But yeah, so it's looking good. I'm excited to get started. Madden, I'm getting it in just a few days. Definitely please stay tuned, watch my videos, comment, let me know anything you might have on your mind. Let's get these numbers back up and let's get me motivated to do another year of draft classes. I don't really play Madden much anymore, but I do the draft classes for you guys because I know you love them and I know you appreciate them. So thanks, and I'm looking forward to another great year.